Namaste and welcome everyone to the Lightworkers Journey podcast. My name is Vaz Sriharan. Today I have another exciting dual discussion with a good Lightworker friend of mine, Meg Benedicte. I've known Meg for quite a few years now, and we first met at Mount Shasta in California, which is a place that we both share a deep love for. And after meeting Meg there, she actually appeared in our 2014 Shasta retreat, which is incredible. Those of you listening who came along to that retreat will know that we had an amazing experience there. And me and Meg have kept in touch over the years, been wanting to work together or collaborate, co-create in some way. And this year we had a super powerful Leyline activations in Glastonbury, which is just magical. It just awoke so many ancient feelings of Avalon, and we had a lot of soul family come together. And this is what Meg really does. She brings a lot of people together with her work. She's developed her own activation process called quantum access healing, which we'll talk about today. And I just want to give a little bit of background for those of you who haven't come across Meg before. Meg experienced a profound awakening in 1994 that activated her inherent template for performing and understanding the mechanics of quantum access as a powerful tool for transformation. It was during the 1994 Northridge earthquake in Los Angeles that Meg experienced a spontaneous Kundalini awakening that opened her energy body to accept an angelic soul walk-in, a feminine aspect of Archangel Metatron's soul group. This experience was life-transforming as Meg discovered through the guidance and wisdom of Metatron the magnitude of change possible when tapping into the zero-point field vacuum dynamics of a spinning torus vortex, the source of creation for the universe. This is going to blow your mind. I've had sessions with Meg. I highly recommend it. It's literally mind-blowing, and I'm excited to have you here, Meg. Welcome.
Thank you, Vaz. It's always great to see you, and let's rock and roll here.
Let's do it. Let's dive in. So, one of the things just to touch upon, because we just worked out in Glastonbury, I know that you have such a passion for working at these power spots as well and doing Leyline activations. You were just at Shasta as well, just recently. Mm-hmm. Can you share more about why you're going to these places and what kind of work you're doing?
Sure. So in the early years when I was starting to really get accustomed to being having the soul embodiment, I found that I would even wake up in the middle of the night and I would see that my soul was working on the planetary grid and like easing earthquakes and volcanoes and this kind of thing. And it was like really kind of a soul calling, a heart calling to unite. And so the first, of course, place I united with was Mount Shasta. I moved there in 2012 and just united with the mountain and began to, in a sense, kind of feel, with your clairsentience, where the areas on the planet needed some help. We have so much history of violence and pain and suffering embedded into the land. So many of us are being called to work on these really what we call power centers, as Stonehenge. Glastonbury is a very big power center, so is Mount Shasta. And it's literally where all these ley lines come together and they create this, they call it a nodal point, but it's a power point and it's a vortex energy that's running in these sites. And in the, in the ancient years, these sites were all linked up through the grid, and they were especially to the main frequency generator at the Giza pyramid, and they were all maintaining a very high frequency planetary field, and we've lost that. So many of us, I have noticed more and more of us are feeling the pull, feeling the call to get literally physically onto these power places and help heal what's embedded in the land, clear the lines, open up the frequency generators and these vortex portals, and just keep spinning us higher and higher into more of what we would call the divine frequency level. We need to get this whole planet lifted up, and so that's part of why we're called to go to these spots.
And I guess like in 1987, the harmonic convergence, so many people went to these sites, didn't they? And for me, this is when the shift, the noticeable difference in energy started to really happen.
Definitely. Someone had told me that they had read in the Cryon books that was a pivotal point. 94, when I came in, was 18 years before 2012, and they say then there's another 18 years after 2012. So that's kind of the full span of this really accelerated quickening that's happening on the planet. So we're right in it now, especially going into 2020. Really.
That's so interesting. 94 is when I actually woke up as well.
See?
So there was some kind of real collective boost, wasn't there?
Yes.
I guess we're coming in waves.
Yes. Yeah. Well, when I think too, those of us who woke up, because that's, what is that, 25 years ago, almost. It's in a way, the wave, we call them kind of the waves, the first wave, the second wave, the third wave of Lightworkers. That wave, I think, was what I call the system busters. And so we came in to really start to penetrate the light into these really entrenched enslavement dark systems. And that's not easy work to do. I think the third and fourth and fifth waves, they're more to be building what this new era, this new earth paradigm. But I think us old timers, and you're not an old timer, how did you wake up 25 years ago?
I had a hard time with it.
But it's been a lot of work bringing down these really what I would call dysfunctional and destructive systems, so we can replace it with more love and compassion and harmony.
Yeah, we seem to love it, don't we? Breaking things down,
Yeah.
especially when we see it not working. Right. So with the kind of work that you do, because I love that because you seem to work such deeply with the sacred geometry of the universe as well, and with a 0-point field, and it's really merging with the quantum discoveries that we're having at the moment. Can you briefly share how you work with your activational energies? As briefly as possible.
Really. Yeah. Put that in a nutshell. Okay, so really quickly, when I had my activation, I got very basic instructions from Metatron and my higher self, and it was basically draw a circle with 12 points, like a clock, and sit in the center and start spinning it. And that's where I started. Now, of course, 25 years later or whatever, I now recognize that the 12 points correlated to the 12 circles of Metatron's cube. And it was basically all encoded, embedded to open up into my body and my field, the double star Merkaba and the vortex switch is it's an anti-clockwise vortex that runs around the body and the aura, and it's helping us in so many ways. I call it an ascension tool, but it's basically helping us to spin energies out that are congruent with our true divine essence, and then also helping to bring more of the light in and more of the soul presence in. And so it's also helping get that double star tetrahedron and Merkaba open and running, which is the geometry of your torus. And so the torus is a self-sustaining continuum. It's our magnetic fields pulling in it, which actually makes the law of attraction work. It pulls in what matches us, what's responding to our soul magnetism. And so it's very much the operating system, I would say, of our universe, right? It's our sun is a Taurus, our earth is a Taurus, the galactic sun's a Taurus, our atoms are little Tauruses. And so we are trying to get back into that natural rhythm and pulse and harmony and the singularity that exists at the center of a vortex that we've lost by being genetically re-engineered into a double, just a double helix of duality, and we're trying to get free of all of that. And the vortex helps you do that too. It breaks out the patterns and programs that kind of have locked us in and constrained us. It's very liberating, and it's I think it eventually it just adapts to your field, and it's always running now for me. It's always helping me even when I'm doing other things. So it's just again, getting that Taurus running is really important to the transformation, literally at the subatomic level of our physical body, our vessel that our soul is coming into.
Wow. Love it. And so yeah, when you're working with, I mean, for me, experiencing as well, this is one of the things that I tangibly feel that shift into this state. And I think as we're moving to these multidimensional states of reality, especially now, we need multidimensional forms of working and engaging in reality. Yeah.
And we also, you mentioned 0 points, in the center of a vortex. It's it's no magnetic. So that means that it's a neutral state. It's even though it originally physicists thought 0 point was an empty space, they're finding out no, it's not. It's actually all these virtual popping electrons, just waiting for our consciousness to instruct them on how to form. And so it's a vibrant space. It's at some point when I first started getting into it, it felt like the dark void. But then I realized, oh, but it's not an empty void. It's alive. It's potent, right? It's fertile, and it's just listening and waiting for us to engage with it. And so getting that 0 point established inside us is so important, because the actual torus can't run unless you have that 0 point void in you. It's like it's pulling the torus to circulate. When we're in a polarity field, kind of that push-pull of the opposites and all, forget it, the torus can't run. So it's very important for us to learn how to establish that 0 point centeredness and stillness. And it is a vacuum state, and it starts pulling in the movement of the torus and all that we need to support ourselves. So in the end, I do, like you said, boy, these physicists are starting to get a greater understanding. And it's probably because of the quickening as well, right? It's allowing them to start to go beyond just the traditional physics that they were taught, and start to see it more through the right brain and the intuitive mind. And so metaphysics and physics are really starting to converge now.
So with these, these interchanges that you're talking about, do you see that with obviously more and more people are starting to shift on a greater levels, incredibly exponentially?
Yes.
Do you feel that we're going to start to see these shifts externally because of that?
I already see signs of it. Yes. I think since 2012, every year it just gets faster, and it gets more intense and more accelerated, and more people are people you would never think of are starting to have this kind of a greater understanding of what's happening on the planet and beginning to wake up. So I think we're just going to keep seeing that. I also think there is, at least here in America, we're really starting to see, thank God, a tipping point where the majority of the population is really kind of fed up with the dark, snarky meanness, and they want us to be kind to each other again. And so we're starting to see that grow and spread, where, we're not going to tolerate that kind of really low vibe behavior anymore. And so I do think it's happening. And I do think that even the statistics, at least here in America, more and more of the younger generation aren't really going into traditional religions anymore. They're actually really interested in yoga and healthy eating and taking care of their vessel and being kind and helping each other. And so I do think it's already happening. Maybe because of what I do, I look for it, so I see more signs of it. But I do think it's more than what was happening in 2012. It's really, really happening.
Yeah, considering that was nearly 10 years ago.
I know.
It's
Goodness
crazy,
gracious. I know.
And, it's just based on what you're talking about as well, this is something that I love about the way that you're pioneering in that ascension movement, because you're talking about unity consciousness, you're talking about facing your shadow, you're talking also about the social justice side of things, which I find is still quite rare to talk about. And all of these themes, which I think is beautiful, really, because for me it shows, well, it's that integration, isn't it? It's like we're developing ourselves, but also recognizing that we're interconnected to everything that's happening right now.
Yeah, because I don't know about you, but I would get all the time, people would say, you're a spiritual teacher, you should be talking about politics or social justice. And I'm thinking, well, then you have a split still running in you, because, as you said, as we get more integrated and more embodied, we can't just separate or, compartmentalize anymore our life. It's all together. It's all part of the one. And I can't, observe violence or abuse or injustice happening and just ignore it or be silent about it. And this is not just out there in what we would consider, the 3D world. This is also in the spiritual community. This stuff is happening.
Right.
The New Age community or the Ascension community or the Disclosure community, right? Okay, so this stuff is still happening. And I just find that, and I get a lot of pushback, but I just find I can't be silent anymore, and just because then we're complicit, then we're just allowing it to continue.
This is the thing. I find that I guess naturally people who are more peaceful don't like to be more vocal. And this is the thing, but I feel like the universe is pushing everyone to be vocal and speak their truth, essentially, because this is what it comes down to, isn't it? If you're feeling something inside and it's not congruent with what's going on outside, then how do people know about it unless we share it? Right?
And I feel that part of moving into fifth dimension and higher is, we call it living in integrity, but really what that means is, what you say, what you think, what you feel, what you express, your behavior, it all has to be the same. It all has to be one. You can't be this way with one person and, pretend to be this way with another. Then you're not in integrity yet, and you aren't at that frequency of the fifth dimension and higher. So it as you integrate and embody, this will just become, I think, a natural expression through you. And it's not where we're trying to pick fights. It's not where we're trying to judge or shame others. We're just pointing out that perhaps that really isn't a true statement, or that could be, there's some truth. We call it disinformation, right? There's some truth in it, but then there's also a lot of non-truth in it. And so I can't just let all that dump of non-truth go out there. And I see so many light workers just plugging right into it and not understanding that they're getting manipulated with some of this misinformation.
Yeah, let's talk about that, because this is something that I'm noticing more and more, and it's something that has been concerning me as well, just especially in the Lightworker community, just seeing so many splits in the UFO community, with disclosure community, the Ascension community, New Age community. What do you feel is happening with all of these splits? Because on some level, it's such an amazing time. We're all awakening, but there are so many divisions forming, where there are almost these battles
it is
occurring.
I here living in Los Angeles, I was kind of in the forefront of this Ascension movement, 25 years ago. I think is probably one of the reasons that I was born here, because it was allowed to come out and be free. It wasn't squashed where it was maybe in other parts of the world. It was a very kind of progressive town, and so a lot of this, and it was enabled me to start my business here as well. And when I first started presenting at the Conscious Life Expo in Los Angeles, or there's also one in San Francisco, back then it was, angels and crystals and aromatherapy and, card readings and, veganism, and it was just so heart-centered and so uplifting. Not anymore. Okay, in the last 5 years at least, it's been taken over completely by what's called the secret space program, the deep state, the UFOs, conspiracy theories, and you're thinking, what just happened? Where did our beautiful, love and light community go? And it's like they went to the dark side. And so first, one thing I say this all the time, but I just want to express it, that can be something you're interested in, but that actually has nothing to do with ascension. If you want to read about Mars, you want to read about the deep state, or, you want to see when they will disclose that there's UFOs, which everybody knows anyways, that does not help your ascension. The ascension is an inside job, and it is a complete transformation of your genetics and of your consciousness and of being able to embody your soul. So I just want to preface that whatever all this stuff is, it's pulling us, it's distracting us, it's pulling us away from the main focus, which is ascension, which is this complete transformation that's happening on the planet and within ourselves as well, because we live on the planet. So possibly it is where some of these kind of darker forces realized, oh, let's get in there. They use the divide and conquer technique. So let's get into this, because we must, by 2012, we must have really started getting powerful, right? And the light is spreading all around the planet. And I do believe we're over 50% of light now on the planet. And so this, probably the alarm bells went off and we're like, oh, okay, we got to get in there and tear this up. We have to break it apart in kind of a similar way with what we're doing, right? We're here to come in as system busters and bring the light in and break down this system. Well, they're using the same tactic on us. So just knowing that should help people kind of be careful. Just be careful what you plug into, because a lot of this could be disinformation programming running.
I guess, yeah, with what you're saying, I guess on a higher level, we're all being taught discernment, which is the ultimate listening to your own truth, isn't it, with all of this going on as well?
Yes. And I see people, well, they'll post like, I was watching this show, or I was reading like The Law of One is a great example. Reading The Law of One, the whole time I read The Law of One, I was really, it resonated quite a bit with what I had already been learning from Metatron. But I kept getting draconian attacks the whole time I'm reading The Law of One, and I'm thinking, what the hell happened here? They plugged into that hologram, and so anyone who attempts to read that information, which is beautiful, enlightening information, they get attacked. So I just had to like put it down and then pick it up again maybe a day or two later and tax and get through it. But this is unfortunate, and this is what I call it the counterforce. This is the counterforce to what we're here to bring in and to accelerate. And so I think once you've had some of that, then you kind of get a feeling for, okay, this doesn't feel quite right. This is dropping my energy. This is really pulling me into this kind of a polarized thinking, white hats versus dark hats. We got to get out of that. And so anyone who's talking with that kind of terminology is a warning right there. They're still in duality. And that's what we're trying to clear out of this whole planet.
Yeah, and it's so seductive, isn't it? Like, I remember that phases actually that I've been into conspiracy theories, and as they're fascinating, but they speak to a part that is loving the duality of us versus them, and then you find yourself lost down a wormhole.
Oh, completely.
Yeah.
And then the paranoia takes over, and you're you're looking for signs, and and like, okay, I'm losing it.
Totally, that's it.
Back into your center.
Wow, yeah. So, coming back into that, like, with what's happening recently, I know that you've been working a lot with the Lionsgate energies, and you're really getting people to connect with what's happening right now, currently with the energies. What do you feel like right now that we're experiencing as we come into August 2019?
It was really, I think that was the most powerful Lionsgate I've experienced so far, and it's these are alignments. Yes, they're an esoteric event. A Stargate does open, but it's on the non-physical realm. But then on the physical realm, we do have these alignments with the star systems, and so Lionsgate's when Sirius lines up with Gaia, and it's between July and August every year. Also during the time of Leo, the astrology of Leo. So to me, what it's doing, I had a reaction to it as well. And then I've been working with clients, leading a global meditation, getting feedback from people what they're experiencing. So it does feel like a lot is happening on the heart. We call it the lion's heart is really starting to open, where you can hold that loving compassion and unconditional love with the courage and strength of a lion, not constrict, and withdraw and withhold, but be able to just love fully, radiate this out. And so on the flip side, when we have a big upgrade like that, so it not only affects us on a psychological, emotional level. Let's say for me, I even found a little more core wounding open up that I wasn't aware of in the heart space, that required some healing work after Lionsgate. So you may have felt that maybe you felt some old past pain maybe comes to your awareness. It could be either romantic or with parental, or it could be anything, but it's all centered in the heart. I've been noticing that in client sessions. I've been also, a lot of people are purging. So when we have these big upgrades, we purge, because your frequency went up a big notch. Think of it just like leaped up to another octave. So anything that's below that gets kind of repelled out. It purges out of you. So you might feel tired and exhausted. I certainly have. But it's a good exhaustion, because most of your energy is going to this purging and clearing and healing. And then, within probably a week or two, you start feeling, your stamina starts to come back, because you've moved through that upgrade. So one of them is the big heart, lion's heart, courage to love. And also The other thing I noticed was, I did this in the global meditation, is removing these enslavement matrices, because this also has to come out. We have to get free of any, and it could be, familial, ancestral enslavement, or it could be cultural. Like, for example, here, the African Americans, they all have some residue of that cultural enslavement matrix. Um, Even the Jewish race has some of that, because they've also been persecuted over the centuries. And so you're just looking at the different things that you may be carrying in your own history, your own bloodline that's coming up, that it has experienced some. I mean, for myself as a woman, I have quite a bit of persecution as being like a healer or a gifted channel in past lives, and that gets triggered a bit more, and that has to come out. And so it's a just a peeling away process as we get literally to our core pillar of light, our essence, our true essence. So this one's, we're still in it. I'm still feeling some. I was just hiking in the woods this morning along the creek, and feeling more clearing of the past trauma and pain of mostly heart coming out. But then you have to think about it. We were talking about this earlier. The last 6 weeks has been insane, right? It's starting on June 21st was the solstice. And that, what happened in that activation was Divine Mother came in and created a crystal heart template for unconditional love. So we're all getting these upgrades where, we had our small little hearts, and now they're just going to be, these big cosmic hearts, be able to just love, love, love. So it's really pretty extraordinary. And as we mentioned with 2020, we are getting prepared for the astrology that's coming January 12th. 2020 is the first of it. It's the first Saturn-Pluto exact clash. It's a square alignment, and it's in Capricorn, so it's going to hit a lot of the what we call the establishment. The institutions, the governments, and corporations and banking, and even the institution of patriarchy. Capricorn. So it's getting broken down bit by bit, and next year is going to be really kind of a sledgehammer going to it.
Yeah, speaking about that, I mean, this is something that I love seeing what you're pioneering is with the divine feminine, which is coming through. And obviously we're watching the distorted patriarchy collapse.
Yes.
We're seeing it everywhere now, which is...
You have it happening in the UK as well. UK and US are really kind of have lost their way, and the patriarchy is really trying to hang on. And that 1% is trying to hang on to all the wealth, and it is really a very dysfunctional system. It's unsustainable. It's not going to last. And so in a way, we're all here kind of to give it a little extra push so it's done. And for those who may be thinking patriarchy just means a male dominated society, it's not. It's a system, and women can adapt into that system as well. I worked in the corporate world for women bosses who were worse than some of the men bosses. Okay. So I've seen it in both ways. It doesn't have to do with so much with your gender. It's how you're using your male energy. Feminine, if you're a woman or a man, how are you using your masculine and your feminine energy? And that's what we're trying to bring back into a balanced harmony.
Yeah, wow. So what do you see happening next year in terms of, with all of this clash that's happening with the establishment that's collapsing? Do you feel that there is going to be a period of settling while those crumble in a way?
I think if yes, I sense, especially those of us who've been here longer, and we're kind of the first wavers, whatever, I'm getting that we're being called to get really stable and steady, and because so that in a way we're on the grid and we're stabilizing the field as all this is breaking down, so that you may feel that you get called to do that. I'm going to guess a lot of us are going to get called to do that. We could come together in smaller, large groups and really help smooth it out. Try to keep Gaia in a 0 point as much as we can. So I think it could be. We're already seeing signs of the weather changing, the climate getting more extreme, and really pretty much these natural disasters, and those I think are going to continue. So it's also locating where you intuitively feel you'll be safe and not at the mercy of being at Florida and hurricanes, get out of the way of where all this weather patterning is getting extreme. I'm here right by Mount Shasta, and we get fires. And so we're trying to figure out, where's the best place to be to handle, and also let's pass some policies to offset these extreme weather patterns too, you know. So here we do, I noticed that we pay, our taxes pay, and we do like controlled burns. I don't know what they're going to do though along the coast, because that coast is eroding. It's just the water is rising. So so listen, you got to, this is why they're all, you know, everyone's saying get in tune, because we need to be able to follow where our higher self is asking us to go if we need to relocate, or help those who are at mercy of some kind of natural disaster. You know, this is not about us closing all our borders and locking up and isolating ourselves. This is where we're supposed to be actually doing the opposite. We're supposed to be reaching out and helping everybody. It's so that, again, that whole movement to lock in and isolate is, again, another counterforce movement to the opening and awakening consciousness. I think we'll see these, at least I would say the UK and US governments probably won't be functioning much very well next year.
That's a good thing.
I know, you can see all the signs of it. They're in their last heyday, if you want to even call it that, because they're really, my goodness, just really dysfunctional.
I think it's really interesting how they've gone extreme to the right.
Yeah.
And the only thing left is really balance. So it's everywhere, like in Europe and the US, it's just all kinds of, and South America, even Brazil.
Yes. Oh my goodness. Yes. Yes. Chopping down the rainforest. So that's a great idea. Yeah. I think that, you know, I'm not an astrologer, but I like to watch and read the transits, because those are affecting us. And so when Uranus moved into Taurus, that really started this whole return of fascism. I guess the last time it was in Taurus was in the 1930s. Okay, so we're just getting a whole new repeat of Nazi Germany, and it's happening in the United States, of all places. I think they actually reincarnated here, and they're now in charge. So it's a little like, whoa, you know, it's
interesting.
Yeah. So we do have fascism that's spreading, and of course we have to just, again, we have to nip that one in the bud. Just, you know, not allowing that one to take over.
I guess it's the echoes from that time, well, from eons, isn't it, that now we're really starting to face with this energy that we're carrying, which is super powerful.
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah.
Very deep. So, Meg, it's always great connecting with you. There's so much to talk about as well. I'd love to love to have you back and go even deeper.
Okay, we'll keep it going.
Definitely. But are there any final words that you wanted to share with people?
Well, I think, because I do get a lot of emails from Lightworkers, and I do want to encourage everyone to keep up with their daily practice. You got to meditate, you know, you got to ground, you know, there's certain things that we need to add into our lifestyle to support us as we go through this. Life as it used to be isn't going to be, it's not going to cut it. You have to really start to take care of yourself. So big thing, self-care. Okay, it's just take care of yourself, meditate, ground, so you're stable as we go through these changes, because this is why we're here. So I just want to encourage them to kind of try to look at it from the bigger picture, because I think they're panicking a bit. You know, everyone's getting a little freaked out and panicking, and understand that you aren't alone. You have your higher self, you have your soul presence, you have your angels, you are surrounded by your soul group, your soul family. And so keep working with them. Don't give up, because now is not the time to stop. You know, it's like we're right at the winner's, you know, just strip here. Let's keep going. So I just want to encourage everyone, if you are panicking and if you are feeling scared, go join a meditation group or a yoga group or a spiritual group, just because you run a big spiritual group. Like, don't be alone. Get with the others who are going through it, and then it makes it easier when we go through it together.
Oh, that's a beautiful message. Really great. Thank you, Meg. And how
You're welcome.
People find out more about you, your website?
Okay, yeah, my website is newearthcentral.com, newearthcentral.com, and there's lots of great podcasts on there that you can just get a sample of quantum access, experience how it is to work with the sacred geometry and the vortex energy, and really start picking things up, so, you know, accelerating your ascension. So there's a lot of great stuff there that you can just dive right into. New Earth Central.
Thank you, Meg. We'll put the link in the bio as well. Okay. And yeah, thank you so much.
Oh, thank you. Thank you, Vaz. So lovely to be with you.
Yeah, it was great. And for the rest of you, please explore Meg's work. I really recommend it. She goes deep. She'll take you to places that you didn't even know you wanted to go to within your consciousness. And please listen out for more podcasts. I'll be with you with a lot more information.